Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use Photoshop to make a pop art Andy Warhol style image. And I'm going to take an image and I am going to open it using Photoshop 2025. All right, so it's helpful to use an image for this exercise that has a blank, mostly blank background. You're going to get the best look. It's going to be easiest to work with. You can use a black and white image, or in my case, I am going to actually make it black and white. So, sorry, here we go. So I'm going to change it to black and white, and we're just going to leave it at the default settings. And then I'm going to also make an adjustment to the levels. And we're going to slide this over a little bit. And we're going to slide this one over slightly. Just kind of defining things and also lightening things up a little bit, making it look more like an illustration, but still have the definition and texture of a photograph. So right about there, I think that's gonna work well. And you can play around with that, but something in this realm of settings here would work. All right, so we're going to start by adding a layer. All right, and we're going to label our layers. And this one, I'm going to layer background. Okay, so for this layer, I am going to use the paintbrush, and I'm going to make sure that here is selected multiply. If you don't select multiply, you will just be painting over the photo. But you'll see when I use this tool um, that it's just slightly covering the image. So I can still see every detail of it. And I'm going to just use a kind of medium gray for that. And so we're going to use a hard round brush. And I think this size is decent for now. Can always increase the brush size. So we're going to just fill in the entire background. And so I've got a little bit of a pattern from a couch in there, but we're just going to make that part of our background, all keeping it in this one layer. And we're going to work around the hair. And you'll notice Andy Warhol's works. He paints them and they don't come out, you know, exactly perfect with perfect edge lines. So your work doesn't have to be exact either. Doesn't have to be straight. If you get a little bit of a jagged line or go over a little bit more, I don't want to do this. I'm going to just Control Z that to undo it. That'd be Command Z on an Apple. I'm on a PC. I'm going to continue just coloring in this background. I'm going to go around this strand of hair here. I could choose to make that strand of hair part of the background, but I'm going to get a little bit more detailed here. And I am going to just make my paintbrush a little smaller so I can get in here, and I want this to be part of the background because I think that's going to look kind of cool. So just do that, and I'm going to actually go even smaller for this little area right here. All right, and let's Control minus, zoom out. All right, so that looks pretty good for the background. All right, and now we're going to add another layer. And this layer is going to be the face. And the same thing, every layer that you add, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to change it to normal, from normal to multiply. And we're going to make our brush a little bit bigger here. And we're just going to cover the entire face, any of the area actually that is the skin. And there we go, all the face. There's that. Yep, you just want to make sure everything is covered down to the neck here. A little bit of the chest. We're going to go right over this little piece of hair. It barely shows up as hair, so we're just going to call it part of the neck. And there we go. That's pretty good. All right, and then we're going to add another layer. And see, if I almost started doing it without clicking the multiply, and I would just end up covering my hair. So I'm going to undo that. And we're going to make sure that we select multiply. And actually, before I go any further, I want to make sure that I'm labeling these layers. So this one is going to be face / neck. And the one that I'm going to do next is going to be hair. So we're going to label that on multiply. Everything's good here. All right. So just going to zoom in a little bit here. All right. And then we want to get this hair going. Now I'm just working with a selfie, and it's going to come out okay, but not as good as a professional photo would. But I'm working with what I have. But if I were to do it again, I might have the hair all slicked down so I didn't have to deal with these pieces that are out of place. And I would make sure that there was nothing like that piece of furniture in the background, just because it would come out a little bit cleaner when it's done. But that's all right. This is going to work okay. Right, we've got that. Actually, so before I forget, so over here, I'm gonna get down here all this hair. Doo, doo, doo. And here. And I'm going to use a smaller brush to get this piece right here. To get this piece right there. All right. So fill that in there. While I'm on this smaller brush, I'm going to get some of the finer details on this side. Go. This is really the most time-consuming part, is getting all these different layers all colored in. And then the next part is a lot more fun. We get to experiment with different color, and it's a lot quicker and less time consuming. So we're just gonna get this part out of the way. We got to do all the steps in order or it's not gonna work. So getting this one done. All right, and then we're gonna get this hair right here. Yeah. All right, and again, I said it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm trying to give it the basic shape of the original photo and keep the hair separate from the shirt when I can, just because I think that the contrast of the two is going to look good in the finished product. Yeah, here we go. So that looks good for the hair. This little guy right there. All right. Make sure we're all colored in. All right, and then we're going to add another layer. And this layer is going to be the shirt. Okay. And we are going to switch this to multiply again. And we are going to work on this chart. I'm going to use this little brush right here so I can get this area and this area right there, this area right here, that area. Yep, all in here. Right, lined up with the neck. If I were to go over a little bit, again, not a big deal. It would almost look more like a painting if I were to do that. All right, we're gonna keep this. Make sure we get all those colored in there, right in here. Got a little bit here that we left open to do. I can tell. All right, and we're going in here. Okay, that was a little crazy. We're gonna undo that part. And there we go. So I've always really liked Andy Warhol's work, and I think this is a really neat and easy little trick you can do using Photoshop. And so I thought it would be neat to share with everybody. Again, it works best, I think, on a nice clear portrait with front-facing, clean background. Works good with people, but you could probably do this with, animals or any object, really. You just want to have something that has multiple features in it to make the different colors that we're going to use work. All right, so there we go. We've got the shirt all colored in there, and we're going to add our last layer. And I'm just going to label this eyes, even though it's actually going to be the eyes and the lips. So you'll notice in like the Andy Warhol, Marilyn Monroe photos, um, that he redoes re yeah redoes with paint and screen printing process. He makes her lips exaggerated, her lips and her eye makeup exaggerated, and so we're going to do a similar um, thing to this photo. Um, all right, so again, multiply. All right, we're going to go up, and I am going to Control plus zoom right in. And I'm going to make my brush smaller for this because we're getting those details. So I'm going to just go like this on the eyelid, and I'm going to take it all the way up to that brow line. Again, it's going to be exaggerated, almost like a clown type makeup, uh, but it's going to look pretty cool. All right, so we've got that, and you'll see um, that the photo I'm using does not have both eyes completely exposed. So we're just going to work with this half an eye and kind of like make it match that other side. And I didn't like how that looked. So I'm going to redo that, and I'm going to go from the corner up, down, and up. There we go. Okay, that's kind of sharp. I'm going to round that out a little bit. Yeah, we're going to call that good, I think. Okay, and we're going to go down to the lips. And we're going to go outside of the natural lip line, just kind of exaggerating those lips and making it work for this project. All right. Yeah, that's pretty good. And it's a little wonky there, but that's going to work. All right, so zoom back out, see how that looks. Yeah, looks a little crazy, but that's what we're going for. All right. So now it's time to start working with the colors. Right now I'm currently on my eyes layer. So I'm going to stay on that layer, and I'm going to adjust the layer. I'm going to adjust the hue saturation. And before I adjust any of this, because if I just start doing this, it's going to adjust the entire photo, all the layers in the photo. So to avoid doing that and to go layer by layer, I'm going to use this button right here, clip to layer, and that means that what I do in this layer is only going to be applied to the eyes layer. So now I'm going to colorize, and I want this really saturated. So saturation is going all the way up, and I'm going to find a color that I like, that I want to use for the eyes and lips. Yeah, I mean, got a lot to choose from, and you just want to have a different color for each layer. So we're gonna go with this sort of purpley magenta type color, I think, for the eyes and lips. All right. And I'm actually gonna lighten it just a little bit. Yeah, I like that. Um, and again, there's some artistic freedom here for you to choose what color you like, lighten it however you want. But I would put saturation all the way up to get the kind of pop art look that we're looking for. All right, so we've got that layer. Now we're going to go down to the shirt layer, and we are going to do an adjustment and hue saturation, and remember to clip to layer. So we're only adjusting the shirt and only the shirt, and colorize and saturation all the way up. And we're going to find a good color for that. Yeah, I kind of like this yellow color. I think like a greenish yellow, maybe. Yeah, right in there. All right, that looks good to me. And we're going to move to the next layer, which is hair. Click on that layer and go to adjustments, hue saturation. We're going to clip to that layer, colorize, saturation all the way up to 100%. And let's see what we want for hair. Oh, I like this blue. We're going to go with that. All right, and then face and neck. We are going to adjust hue saturation, clip to the layer, colorize. Now for this one, we don't want the saturation all the way up. We're going to increase it a little bit, but the idea is that it's more of a muted color, so that we don't lose much in the face. Almost like a natural type skin color, but with a hint of different color. So I'm gonna stick right in here in these like kind of orange type hues and just play around with that. I think I'm gonna go with that. And yeah, so you'll see this is before and this is after. So it warms it up a little bit and gives it some color, makes it go with the rest of the image better. All right, and now we are on neck. We're going to go to background. All right, and we're going to hue saturation. We're going to clip to layer, colorize, saturation 100% up. Yeah, I mean, that looks pretty cool, but let's see. We already did a yellow for the shirt. Oh, I kind of like the purple. I think I'm going to go with purple. All right. So there we go. So this is how you can make a pop art Andy Warhol type image pretty easily. There's a few steps, but they're pretty repetitive. And once you get the hang of it, you should be able to understand how to work through the whole thing. When we're done with it, we can do this and we can flatten the image. And then what I did earlier was take that image in a new, opened it up in a new screen, added it to there, and then I just dragged it out using Alt on a PC, or you would use Option on a Mac. And I just dragged that out to make 4 equal images. And then all you have to do is the adjustment, hue saturation, and you don't even have to use the any of the other things except for hue. And you just drag that around and it'll give you 4 images just like that, in the similar style to Andy Warhol's piece. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial.